Most people trying to get their emotional shit together are actually avoiding the very thing that would help them. So many people, when they think that they want to start looking inward or taking care of themselves emotionally, start doing things like affirmations. They switch to positive thinking, they cold plunge, they do deep breathing. And don't get me wrong, all of these things are great in and of themselves. There's literally nothing wrong with any of those techniques or modalities. The trouble is they miss the whole entire point. They don't actually give you any room to face the thing that you're feeling. The whole entire reason why you felt like you had to start doing these things in the first place. They're all just fancy ways of skipping past or skipping over what's really going on inside of you. Only using the modalities that I talked about before. Stick to this script that somehow we are better human beings if we are always happy and always positive and always grateful. And there's nothing wrong with those emotions. They're great to have. But the reality is they're not better than feeling sadness or fear or despair. It's just a different experience. The thing, if you're always trying to override your emotions, if you hold that belief that there is something wrong with having other emotions like fear and sadness, what some might even label negative emotions, which doesn't make any sense because they're not negative. They're just an experience that your body is having. If you always override those feelings, one, you're never teaching your system how to hold the capacity to actually feel those feelings, which we'll talk about later in the video. And two, you're making yourself feel wrong or broken or somehow like you shouldn't be doing what you're doing for even having the emotions in the first place. And that makes the emotion feel even worse. Let's think about it like this. Let's say you start training for a marathon, 26.2 miles. That is no joke. You start walking and then maybe start jogging. You want to throw in some weightlifting maybe to keep the bones and the muscles nice and strong. Your goal is essentially to make sure that you have the endurance and the capacity to be able to do the thing on the day of the marathon, to actually complete those 26.2 miles. But imagine this. Let's say you're trailing along and you're doing a mile and then maybe 3 miles and then 5 and then 7. And then you just stop at 7 miles. And for the rest of your training time, you just keep running 7 miles. No faster, no slower, no different. It's just 7 flat miles. When you get to race day, when you get to marathon day, you are not going to feel very good. That is not going to be a good time. Versus if you had gradually and incrementally increased your time and your distance and your speed and the type of course that you were running, all of that would make a huge difference in how you felt on the actual race day. And that's basically what happens if you only use the tools like we talked about before. If you're only trying to do positive affirmations and you're only cold plunging and you're only trying to stay positive all the time, your body is basically stopping at those 7 miles when you actually have the capacity for so much more. And life will often give you events and scenarios that ask you to have that response. But if you've never trained for it, then it just always feels like all the time. That emotional muscle has never gotten the chance to increase its capacity, its endurance, its size. And so every time that you experience a feeling, no matter how big or small, it feels like crap, which then makes you not want to feel the feeling or not want to do the things that you think might create a feeling because you're afraid of the response. And it just creates this vicious feedback loop, keeping you in a space where you feel lost or scared or maybe afraid to try new things. And that sucks. Talk about what to do instead, because there is an out from that vicious cycle. You may not like what I'm about to say, but I promise you it makes such a difference. Your big shift is to not make yourself wrong for having a feeling or emotion in the first place, regardless of the situation. The feeling is never wrong. If you decide to act on that feeling, that may be wrong, but we're not talking about actions right now. We're talking about feelings, and letting the feeling exist, not making yourself wrong for it, is essential. Okay, so then step 2, after you've not made yourself wrong, you've given yourself permission to have the response, the experience that you're having in regards to a situation or an interaction or a conversation. And then you go to that feeling, and there's a specific way that you can move through it, that you can express it, that allows you to essentially let the feeling pass through you. And I give instructions explicitly how to do that in another video that I created. I'll link it in the descriptions and pop it up on the screen. Take a peek at that video if you're interested in going to that next step. But really what I want you to know is that the biggest shift is that you've got to stop making yourself wrong for having it. Your goal is to actually increase your body's capacity to have those feelings so that they don't feel like such a big impact when they show up. A marathoner thinks that running a 5K is like a walk in the park. It's a warm-up for them. That is how we want to get our systems to feel. So much capacity within to feel those bigger, heavier emotions, that when something smaller comes up, that we have the ability to easily and fluidly move through the experience, and it doesn't feel like it stops us in our tracks or bowls us over or prevents us from doing something that maybe we really want to do, but we're so afraid of feeling the feeling that we never allow ourselves to actually take that action. A feeling is just a response. If it's helpful, think about if you were in a dusty room, or if you have allergies and spring starts blooming, you're gonna sneeze. It's a totally normal and natural and very organic response. Let yourself think of feelings just like that. Having any feeling is not a reflection of your worth. It's not something that you need to fix or take care of or try to get to a space where you never feel that way ever again. It just is. It's a part of being human, a really beautiful part of being human. If we didn't have feelings, life would be so bland. You can think of it as the seasoning of life. Imagine eating every single meal with no seasoning whatsoever. Every single meal. Boring as all hell. I mentioned it before, but if you want a full walkthrough of how to actually go through the process of feeling your feeling, I've made a whole entire video on exactly how to do that thing. I'll link it in the description. Go take a peek if that's something that's interesting to you. Thanks so much for being here. See you in the next video, and don't forget to speak your truth.